Everyone, Karen Cecilia here. You need to answer me a question when you finish listening to this. Are you enjoying the the history stories? Are you enjoying them? Just answer that question. I'm going to bring you another story about another brilliant black woman who has been overlooked in the history books and got recognition late, like so many others have. Some of you have asked and have said that, I need to do more stories on black women and how much things black women have done and so on and so forth. And I want to say to you that, yeah, black women have done a lot. And if you ask every ordinary person, they will tell you that it's black people invent everything and founded everything and created everything. And I just know one person would agree with all of that, even though, factually it's not really so. But I want to tell you that yes, there are a whole heap of black women that did a whole heap of great things. And there are stories about them. The stories are minimal. The stories are not as detailed as we want them to be. So yeah, you can find a one paragraph thing about somebody that did something, and the story, but the story doesn't just really don't exist in terms of a detailed story, and so you have to forgive me. So I'm trying to find as many black women heroes as I possibly can, but you also must recognize that some of these stories have been erased not only by white people, but by our very own black people themselves. But today I want to share with you a story about one great woman who did a great thing. Back in 1952 or 50, back in 1950, the United States um, created a computer, produced a computer that them call UNIVAC 1. It was Universal Automatic Computer 1. And that's a big hell of a something, big hell of a something. It utilized 5,200 vacuum tubes, weighed 13 tons, and could perform 1,905 operations per second. Now, that sounds like a big deal. As a matter of fact, it would have been a big deal in 1951. 1,905? Of course, but my phone that I'm talking to are now moving, what, maybe 25,000 faster? But it's a big deal back then, the UNIVAC won. And the story of this woman is tied up with that. And I want to share that story with you. Remember to like the video and share it. And I hope you are sharing it with as many high school students as you possibly can, or even university students, people that don't take any interest in history. And basically, for them, history is the man who founded Facebook, web name Mark, whatever, and the Bezos and Microsoft and them people, that's their history. They need to know more history, how some serious black people struggled and how they made a dent in history, and they need to know. So here goes. On that particular morning, all the engineers were sick. Every single one of the engineers were sick. Every one of them called in the same morning so that they have the flu. Flu was sweeping through the office where the UNIVAC 1 computer was at the time. So the UNIVAC 1 computer sat silent in the corner of the room at the David Taylor Model Basin. It was a machine the size of a small house that nobody but the Ivy League educated white men were allowed to touch. It's the newest toy. It's a big thing. But one woman, a young girl, Raye Montague, was a clerk typist. And here we are thinking clerk and typist are two different things. But in 1951, it was the same thing. Clerk typist. Well, I guess the clerk did the same thing that the clerk do and then she type. That must have been it. But for every day that those engineers have been around that computer, she had been watching those engineers work the machine for months, sitting close enough to memorize the sequence of the switches and the punch cards, but far enough that nobody thought to stop her from paying attention or to ask her what she's looking at or to even give a hint that she was actually listening and looking. So that morning, when all of them calling sick, Ray walked over to the UNIVAC. She flipped it on and finished every calculation the engineers had left undone. When they returned the next day, the work was complete. They asked, "Who did this?" Ray raised her hand. That was 1956. She was 21 years old then, fresh out of college with a business degree that she never wanted. What Ray wanted was an engineering degree. But the University of Arkansas didn't award engineering degrees to women, much less black women, in the 1950s. It wasn't a policy you could argue with. But just to be fair, there were other universities in the United States in the 1950s that offered engineering degrees to white women. The University of Arkansas was not offering any degree for either white women or black women, particular black women. It was a policy that you just couldn't argue with. It was just how things were, segregation and all of that. So Ray had learned to work around how things were done. She grew up in Little Rock, like Bill Clinton did, during the Depression. She was raised by her mother, Flossie, who ran a beauty shop. And Flossie never missed any opportunity to tell her daughter the hard truths. When Ray was 7 years old, she came home from seeing something and run into home and said to her mother that she just saw a captured Japanese submarine at 7 years old. Might have seen it, somewhere in the dock or something, but she ran home and said to her mother that she saw a captured Japanese submarine, and she announced to her mother that she wanted to build ships. Well, her mother didn't laugh at her. She just sat her down and she said, "You can't build ships, baby. You're black, you're female, and you're getting a segregated education. Three strikes. You're black, you're a female, and you're segregated. Which means that you need to be twice as good to get half as far." And that's what Flossie told Ray. Ray took that as instruction, not discouragement. She graduated high school in 1952, the year before the Little Rock Nine. You remember, you all might know the Little Rock Nine, who made national headlines trying to integrate into the Central High School. Yeah, that was the same place down in Arkansas, where they spat and spit and throw dirt and fling things after the 9 black children when them trying to integrate the black school. President Kennedy was not President Kennedy. What name? George Wallace was the man doing all of that. How did I get Kennedy name into all of that? Kennedy was a senator, I think, then, and they were all trying to make it happen. But by then, Ray was already gone from Arkansas. She enrolled from Little Rock, that is. She enrolled in Arkansas at AM&N and studying business because it was the only door that was open to her. Ray thought to herself in entering college to study that business thing that this was just a door that she's going to walk through because it is open to her, but it's not going to be the only door. She's going to use this door to push other doors open. She moved to Washington, D.C. the day after graduation with one single plan: get inside the Navy, which was the other door, and then figure out the rest of the doors. The rest, of course, took 15 years. Ray taught herself computer programming at night school. She bought a car and taught herself to drive when her boss told her that the only promotion available required night shifts. And when he told Ray that, he knew that the buses didn't run that late, so it was meant to discourage her. She became a computer systems operator, then a systems analyst. then program director. Each step forward came with new resistance and new doors. Bosses who tested her harder, colleagues who wouldn't take orders from her even when she get these promotion because she's a woman when she black. Systems that is designed to keep people like her exactly where they started and no further. But Ray kept moving anyway. In 1971, she had spent years developing an automated system for ship design. So no matter what doors they closed, Ray was still opening and building her own doors. She was writing code that could translate engineering specifications into digital drafts, which would eliminate endless handwriting and drawing and recalculation that made every new warship a 2 year project. The Navy had the system, they just hadn't committed to using it. They got it, they sat down on it. Then the Vietnam War came along, and that war created a deadline that the Navy could not ignore. The Navy needed a new guided missile frigate, the FFG-7. They needed it designed fast, faster than the traditional methods that was allowed. Well, someone in the Pentagon gave Ray's department that she's head of 1 month to prove that the computer system could do what she had been saying it could do for years. 1 month they gave her to design a warship from scratch. Think about that. The hull, the propulsion, the weapon system, the performance, guidance, and specifications, everything. A month for her to design it and then prove to them that it can do all the things that she said. It was a Friday afternoon when they handed her the assignment. Ray called in her team on Saturday morning, not to ask if they thought it was possible, but to tell them that they were doing it. She sat down at the computer terminal and started running the program that she had written years before. Her staff fed in parameters, tonnage, speed requirements, weapon configurations. The machine processed data that would have taken engineers weeks to calculate by hand. Readjusted the variables, refined the outputs, caught errors before they compounded. 18 hours later, the printer started spitting out pages. The hull specifications, the engine layouts, the electrical systems, the structural blueprints, every technical drawing needed to build the Oliver Hazard Perry class frigate, rendered in detail that matched and in some cases exceeded what manual drafting could produce in far more time. The admirals walked into the room Sunday evening expecting to see a work in progress. What they found was a completed first draft. Some of them stood there in silence, particularly the ones that got Ray's recommendation years before and sat on it. They watched page after page roll off the printer. One of them asked Ray how long this was supposed to take. Ray asked him, "You mean normally?" He said, "Yeah." Ray replied, "2 years. But we did it in 19 hours." And she said so with pride. The Navy adopted her system immediately. Defense contractors followed. Within a decade, no one was designing ships by hand anymore. The Oliver Hazard Perry class became one of the most successful frigate designs in naval history. 71 ships built over 3 decades, serving in fleets around the world. Raye got a Meritorious Civilian Service Award in 1972, which was the Navy's third highest honor for civilian employees. But her name didn't appear in newspapers. The defense magazines that boast about this feat didn't interview her. When the Society of Manufacturing Engineers gave her their Achievement Award in 1978, making her the first female professional engineer to receive it, most people outside the defense industry had never heard of Raye Montague. They tried to erase what she did. But Raye kept working. She became the Navy's first female program manager of ships in 1984, overseeing teams of hundreds and budgets in the millions. She worked on the Seawolf class submarine. That probably now is a vintage submarine, probably docked somewhere just to look at. She also worked on the Nimitz class carriers. The systems that she built became the foundation for how the entire naval shipbuilding industry operated. And when she retired in 1990, after 34 years, she went home to Little Rock and started volunteering. She taught computer skills to people re-entering society from prison, mostly black men. She mentored young black students at local schools. She played bridge, lived happily and quietly for 26 years. 26 years. Almost nobody outside the Navy knew what she had done. But then, in 2016, when Hidden Figures came out, so this is the second Hidden Figure story that I'm telling you where somebody was left out. When that story came out, and you know that Hidden Figures was a film about Katherine Johnson, Dorothy Vaughan, and Mary Jackson, those three black women who were mathematicians who helped NASA win the space race. People like to say help, but they were it. They were the mathematicians. Then suddenly people started asking, who else? Who else? What other women did work like this and never got the credit? So in 2017, ABC's Good Morning America brought Raye Montague on and called her the Navy's hidden figure. Janelle Monáe showed up to surprise her, told her she was a hero, told her she wasn't hidden anymore. Raye smiled. She said people always asked her the same question. They would ask, was she the first woman to design a ship by computer or the first black woman? And she would reply, no, I was the first person. Raye Montague died in October 2018. She was 83. And in 2024, the Navy renamed a building after her. In 2025, the U.S. Mint put her face on a dollar coin. Her son David published a biography in 2021, which he called Overnight Code. He wrote about watching his mother navigate a world built to stop her at every turn, about the way she refused to accept other people's limitations as her own, about how she took 3 strikes, black, female, segregated, and turned them into a career that changed an industry. She was a clerk typist who taught herself to run the computers, taught herself to drive. She was a program director who proved ship design could be revolutionized. She was indeed the first person to design a naval vessel digitally in a field that told her that she didn't belong. She couldn't. She would not be allowed to. The Navy gave her 1 month. 1 month. She needed only 19 hours. And she spent the rest of her life proving that the barrier was never the technology. The barrier was always just the people who decided who got to use it, who got to get the credit for it. Raye Montague was truly an amazing woman, and we'll big her up. Thank you all for listening. Please remember to share the video. God bless you all. Stay safe, everybody, and please do keep the children safe. See you in the next video.